Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel where we review anything and everything. And today we are going to jump into the review of the Star Wars Lego set 75378, the BARC Speeder Escape. It comes with 221 pieces. Now, a lot of people were excited about this and they're waiting for this because of the scene in Mandalorian Season 3 about how Grogu actually escaped from the temple. And it was in much anticipation. This actually dropped, I want to say it was around May 1st. I'm not really too sure, but so it's a very much recent and brand new set. You see that it comes with Grogu, obviously, and Kelleran Beq, who, unbeknownst to me, I thought was just a new character made for the scene. Apparently, he's a character who's been a part of Star Wars lore for a while. I actually watched a video that recently had mentioned about how he was in the let me make sure that I get this right. He was in the books, which are not considered canon anymore. I think they're considered legend. But he was in the books. And obviously, anyone who's familiar with this whole Star Wars lore recently, that they made all the book line to be separate. The old classic book line used to be separate from the canon lore once Disney took over. So sometimes when they bring characters from the, I guess you could say, extended lore, we'll call it for lack of a better word, over into the main lore, a lot of people get excited. So I didn't know about this with this character, and now he's actually part of the main lore once he was introduced in The Mandalorian Season 3. Then you have here the 501 clone troopers. There's two of them that come with this set, and obviously a little lamp. Now this is to try to recreate that scene. That lamp was attached to the structure of the Jedi Temple. There were two 501 clone troopers, that are inside the set, but there were a bunch of clone troopers, obviously, in that scene. Now, I have purchased, as I revealed in a previous video, an additional set. Let me just bring that into frame. This set here, just so I can add more troopers to this scene for my own display, even though at this moment now we're just reviewing this set right here. So just so you know, if you want to add more, you can do that. Here shows on the back what it looks like and the features. You obviously have the play features of the spring shooters. You have the speeder. You have Grogu's little transport. I'm not sure what they call that. And Kelleran Beq, who has two lightsabers on him. Fun fact is when you look at the scene, he actually has one saber and he picks up the other one that happened to be on the floor that another Jedi had. I found out that he was intended, the actor who played him wanted to have Kelleran Beq with a purple lightsaber, but for whatever reason, that didn't end up being the case here. But some people say that it might be possible that he happened to just pick up both of these sabers along the way during the Jedi attack, where the clone attack, where he didn't have a chance to get his actual lightsaber. And obviously you see here with the two clones attacking him, a little bit more box art. And let's see, normally have a picture of the figure. There we go. 1-to-1 scale. So we're going to jump into this. Let me unbox this really quick. Obviously, you guys know by now on the channel, I don't like to use these punch holes right here. So I usually use a knife, even though sometimes I still have some trouble getting into this. Okay, and then always clip the side so that way it will open easy. There you go. Let's see how many bags we have. So looks like we got, let me angle this up a little different. Okay, bag one, bag two, we got bag three, and our instructions. So this should be a pretty simple build. I'm going to get into it, and when we come back, we'll review the set. All right, guys, we are back, and here goes the scene right here of everything that's included. And then here goes the extra pieces. Now, I usually take sometimes certain extra things and I attach them to the build. So here, before I get into everything, I just want to know this right here is normally not set up like this, but these are extra studs for the shooters. I like to keep them on the build just in case if you need to use them. I've done this on other builds before, but just so you know, that's not normally how it looks. Normally would look just like that. So don't mind that. This right here is also an included extra piece that is made to go underneath Grogu's little pod, so that way it can appear like it's floating. And we'll get into that when I detach that. So starting off, let's jump into the, don't mind, I'm a little bit congested. Start off, we're going to get into Kelleran Beq, who's the main figure of this set. You can see his face detailing. Because he has no type of helmet or anything of that sort, he has no additional face printing, which is fine. I think his face looks nice. You see the detail on his outfit, his robes, and he's got that kind of gold right there on his chest, which actually looks pretty nice. There you can see it a little better. He's also got that gold over there at the top. Some nice detailing on him. The cape is actually pretty cool as well. I don't really have a lot of figures with capes. I have the loop that went with the Death Troopers, Dark Troopers, is it? Set. Other than that, I don't really have figures with capes, so that's kind of nice. I'm going to jump into more of my detailed thoughts on him as a character in general and what this means in terms of the whole lore, because I think that's one of the main parts that people was excited about when it came to the set, is the idea that what this scene in the show did for the lore. So, that's something that I want to touch on. Here you have your 501 clone trooper. And after doing some research about the different types of troopers, because I'm not too versed in that, the 504 pretty much was the group that was mostly around Anakin and Ahsoka during the Clone Wars. The printing on the back and the front. So with that being said, you get a sense of who they were around most often, which is why this was the group that came with Anakin to the Jedi Temple to slaughter everybody there. Essentially, this was kind of the group that was always often around him. And then the commander Rex was normally with this group as well, even though when they defected, he didn't go along with them. Apparently, he was able to break that the control that they had on him. I'm not really too sure if that was made known in the movies, but in the Clone Wars saga, the show, the animated, that's something that becomes apparent. While the ones with the yellow printing and Cody was with um Obi-Wan. So I just kind of want to throw that in there for those who didn't know, because I wasn't very familiar before in terms of what group was what, and when they say the firewall first and whatnot like that. There you can see your basic clone head printing. Printing on the back. Standard larger blaster. And everyone always keeps saying, I hear different things about always complaining about the holes in the head. I'm not this heavy, kind of nitpicker about Star Wars stuff. So to me, it doesn't bother me that there are holes on it. I understand that they're there for attachment pieces, so that's not a thing that really bothers me at all. Now, the other soldiers are the exact same, so I'm not going to jump into that. Here you have the lamppost, standard lamppost, but what's funny is if you look at that scene in the show, you actually see this lamppost there, and there's a couple of troopers not too far standing from it, so it fits. A lot of people say it was just filler to get the piece count up, so that way they could charge $30. The truth is, I don't feel like it's a big deal in terms of taking away from the scene. I get it. It's not really a big deal in terms of, what it provides to the set. But at the same time, too, like how I initially displayed earlier, you can have these guys just kind of, if you want to have this kind of little isolated scene, and they're just chilling next to the lamp. And and he kind of comes out on his speeder, and they start running towards him, because essentially what it was, the speeder was parked already, similar to the way it's laid out here. He starts running out of the building to try to get to the speeder, and they, with Grogu with him, he's following in his little pod, and the troopers are next to the lamppost, kind of that general area. And as he runs out, running towards the speeder, they come running from near where the lamp was. So you could kind of create that kind of similar scene. So, in that aspect, it kind of plays well for that purpose. Obviously, Grogu is the same as he always was. So there's not really much to him. Getting him out of here is a little tough, but there he goes. Same Grogu that you get with many other sets for the Mandalorian. I like, though, that we get this little pod, and I realized this after the fact. It didn't seem like a big deal, but for a lot of people who may have bought the Razor Crest, and it didn't come with a pod, the basic Razor Crest, not the USC one, but if you got the basic one and the play scale one, it didn't come with a pod. So this set would give you that, will give you the pod. So that part is actually pretty cool, that you could get this set. It's a different set than, say, you getting multiple Mandalorian sets where you're constantly getting Mandalorian, and you were able to get a pod with this that you could use towards your Mandalorian sets as well. So that's pretty cool. That kind of came to my mind a little bit after the fact. Here you could put the little clear piece on, so make it looks like he's floating. It's a little the stability on it, when it comes to, it's easy to tip over to the front, so it's a little front heavy. So that's just something to be careful with. You could adjust it a little bit and put it more at a offset center, and then it's still more centerized. In that case, it actually holds a little bit better. But nonetheless, you get the idea. This portion of the speeder right here is where this would drop in. You already saw it inside there. Now I'm going to take this piece off here. See if I can make this. These are where the slots come into play. Now, normally, if you could do something like this and just angle them down if you want them out of the way. It makes it at an angle. So if you had this by itself, this might look a little funny just standing out on there like that. It may not be a big deal to you. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is. You can pull them off completely like this. But that might get annoying to constantly do and undo. But here you can see the speeder. Now, some people say that they think it's too wieldy, too big. I don't really have speeders, so to me it seems cool. They put a little bit of work here where you're able, these two stickers go here, but giving you this kind of sense of these are where the engines are. So they built it up a little bit. You have the clear bases here to make it feel like it's kind of floating. Stud shooters. So I think that it's pretty good. The little side pod is nice. I think it's built up well. The way it connects is pretty cool too. Let me bring these pieces back over. And I think that I actually really, I like the whole set as a whole. I get that some people might feel like it's a bit expensive for what you're getting, even though it is in general a more affordable set than some of the big sets. You are getting about 3.5 figures. I count Grogu as a half, so you're getting like 3.5 figures. So being that figures sometimes are pretty expensive to kind of get them in sets. I think in that area is where you're getting the value of the set, even though obviously it's not an army builder set. You're gonna buy this once because there's too many. It'd be too repetitive to have Kelleran Beq so many times, over and over again, unless, and this is just a side thought, unless somebody bought it to represent this kind of generic Jedi body, like in robes, and you just change his head. And if you had a bunch of other different Lego heads you could throw on them, you could just change them up, give each one either have a green lightsaber, one have a blue lightsaber, and you could get, in theory, you could, say if you had different hair sets as well. Some of them won't have the cape, some of them may, this and that. In theory, you could probably use this as a semi-army building kind of setup where it's like you would have obviously multiple troopers. You could kind of slightly change up some of the Jedi and try to use this as a general Jedi kind of robe type of thing. And you kind of play around with that, but that's just me thinking outside of the box. Overall, I really like this set for what it does. Now, sorry, I just want to jump into my thoughts in terms of just the lore of this and how this connects with your Lego sets. Now, to me, I feel that this, as I mentioned before, especially in a previous video where I was saying the sets that I purchased and what I'm going to build, and this being the first one of those that I ended up building. But I want to retap on the fact that I feel that this set and what that scene did for the lore was really a big deal in terms of not only connecting the lore but connecting people's sets. Because um, anybody who had like sets from the prequels, and then obviously the connecting factor always with the prequels to the original trilogy was obviously Anakin becoming Darth Vader and whatnot, and just the time frame of the Skywalkers and the sky everything that went on with the Skywalker family, creating Luke, blah blah, all this other stuff. But here now gives you another aspect to connect the prequels with the original trilogy, and obviously the Mandalorian set, which to me is part of the original trilogy's timeline because it's not that far away in time frame. It falls within that time frame. If you want to consider that a 10-year block of time, it falls within that time frame. And part of the same characters are still the same age as they were in the original trilogy. So with that being said, this definitely connects that, like a little side lore of, okay, this is what happened at the Jedi Temple, the Purge, and Grogu himself just being created creates this side lore where it's like we're following him now. It gives this another dimension. It just really opens up the series. So on one, you have these adventures you have with Mando, but also two, Grogu. And Grogu, who could potentially be later on in the movies the new hero character after Luke, because Luke obviously had his time, and now even though they're making him appear in the Mandalorian, he is, as far as an actor goes, is older, so you probably may not see too much with him. Grogu now could fit in perfectly as the new hero character, but now they're building up his lineage by connecting it with Order 66 and the whole purge at the Jedi Temple. In addition to that, you really have, as far as the sets go and whatnot, this connecting piece that says it completes the arc of the Mandalorian to a degree. Like that little scene right there, and connects Order 66, making it almost like, well, that's Grogu's and the not necessarily Mandalorian, but more so Grogu specifically. It's Grogu's prequel. You know what I mean? So the same way like Anakin is Darth Vader in the original, and you want to see his past story. Well, in that small scene, you get Grogu's past story. You get his little prequel, even though it's only like 4 minutes or something like that. It's his little prequel, and just the fact that you understand everything that was revolving going on in the prequels in terms of the Jedi Temple, how everything was somewhat peaceful, what was going on with, the Emperor and everything, that you don't have to expand beyond that scene for Grogu's prequel because you already knew what was going on in the world at the time. The world building was already done in the prequels. You just needed to know what was going on with Grogu during that time, and they gave you that. So now it's like, okay, and they now even have the option if they wanted to, and I would love if they did this, made an in-between time where right after, Kelleran Beq saves Grogu, you could have little adventures that he's gone on with him before you even get to Mando's part. Maybe that's advanced teaching on how he knew how to use his not advanced teachings, but maybe times where he started using the force and whatnot and really kind of trying to teach him how to use it. And maybe that's how he kind of got a little bit better at using it the way he did. Granted, he did have teaching scenes later on in the Mandalorian show, but maybe he kind of learned how to use his powers on instinct based on some of the things that Kelleran Beq was showing him. Maybe so. Who knows? So that would be nice, but that's just one of the possibilities. So I think the lore aspect of it just really is what draw people to the set. I think the set really completes the aspect of the Mandalorian sets that were very big and being put out at that time, because you get this sense of this is Grogu beforehand. Then you have Grogu when the Mandalorian has a ship. Then you have Mandalorian get his new ship, and so it's this whole kind of timeline going on. And I really think that it plays nice with the sets and the way you set it up. Someone could really do a nice display of a timeline display where you have this, you have Order 66, you have maybe the Jedi Temple being taken down. You have Yoda coming to the temple, and maybe in a back display, you have Kelleran Beq leaving the temple with Grogu, and from there you have another display set where you have maybe the Mandalorian time frame. If you just wanted to display the Mandalorian time frame, it's nice that you can pull out some lore from the prequel that just fits the Mandalorian's time frame and Grogu and just that side of the story without touching on Anakin's side of the story deeply, which I think is just really cool. So I know I rambled on a bit, you guys. As always, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.